Hi, it's Jordantine1, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute Loomigurumi Christmas ornament. So it's a cute little spiral ball, and I think it's great for the holidays. So you can see I have this white and gold one. This is the one I'll be showing in the tutorial. And then here I made a red and green. So the bands at the top here are a little bit different for this metal part. This is the metallic silver from Rainbow Loom, and then these over here are actually a more rounded shape silicone band, and these I got, I don't know, quite some time ago. This is what the pack looks like. So I actually really like the way that these turn out for the top. I'm not sure if Rainbow Loom has the rounded silicone bands or not. They very well might. I just don't happen to have any. So I think it's a nice little craft project for the holidays. To make your ornament, you're going to need a hook of some sort, and I'll be using the Rainbow Loom metal hook. You're going to need some type of stuffing, so for that I'm using polyfil. I am going to be using a twist tie just to help me get my magic ring started, but that is optional. And then I'll be using a clip to mark the ends of my rows, so you can use a clip or a stitch marker. And then as far as your band counts go, I used 13 silver, 110 gold, and 110 white. I'm going to begin with a magic ring of 6, so for that I have 7 bands. And then I will be using a twist tie just to help me get the magic ring started, but that is optional. And then I'm using a clip to mark the end of my rows. So if you are using the twist tie, you're just going to put it right next to your hook, and then you're going to take your first band and you want to triple this. So you just place it on, twist, back on, twist, and back on. So you should have 3 loops. And then you just want to pull your twist tie up about halfway and bend it in half. So that's just going to help you keep those 3 loops together and give you something to grab. And now you should have 6 bands left, and we're just going to pull through one at a time. So here's one, get the other end back on your hook. You should have 2 loops, and one will pull through the other, and then back through those 3 loops from the front. Pull through your second band, back on. You should have 3 loops and one through the other 2, and then just continue going back through the front. Here's my third, back on, one through the other 2, and then I have my fourth, fifth, and one more, and then you'll remove your twist tie, add your clip or stitch marker, and then just take a second and spread these out around the circle. In row 2, you'll need 6 bands, and we're just doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. So on your magic ring, on the outer edge is what I'm calling a stitch. It's a little sideways V, and it has 2 loops. So you're pushing through from front to back, and you're always going under both loops. You're going to pull through, back on, 3 loops on your hook, and 1 through the other 2. So we're just doing 1 in each for this row. So basically we're just building the little metal top of the ornament. So that was 4, 5, and then where your clip is should be your last stitch, and 6. And then you want to take your clip and just move it to the band that's on your hook. So if you count your stitches at this point, you should have 6 going around, and the 6th one or the last one in your row is always going to be the one that's on your hook. In row 3, we're going to start the pattern for the ball. So I have 12 rubber bands. It's 6 of each one of your colors. So you can see I have the bands laid out in patterns of 2, and that's because we are going to do an increase in every stitch. And now we're also going to start to do a slip stitch every time because we're going to be changing colors every time. So it's actually quite easy to do. I'm going to go to my next stitch over here, the first empty stitch to the left, go under both loops, taking my first color, I'm pulling through the stitch, but then I'm also pulling through the one on my hook. Get the other end back on so you have just the same color on your hook, and it should be 2 loops, one through the other. So that's a slip stitch, and then we're going back through that same stitch a second time for our increase. Now you have your second color, you're pulling through everything. Get the other end back on so you have just the 2 loops from that same band, one through the other. Moving over to the next stitch, we have the first color pulling through everything, one through the other, back through the same stitch for your second color, pull through everything back on, and one through the other. So we're just going to continue to repeat that the whole way around here. So there's my first color, and my second. There's one, and 2, and you should see it makes this kind of cool zigzaggy pattern when you do a slip stitch every time. And I have 2 stitches left here. So there's my white, and then back through for the gold. It is kind of tight space working here, and if you wanted to, you could just spread this out a bit. It sort of seems to be closing in on me. And then I have 2 bands left where the clip is. So let me just take this clip out. So there's one, and back through for the second. And now I'll put my clip on this last band. In row 4, you're going to need 16 bands, and we're doing an increase in every 3rd stitch. And this is actually the largest that this ball is going to get. And the color pattern is always still going to be every other. So I have white, gold, and then in the increase I have white and then underneath gold, and then you're just going to keep repeating that. And I do need to explain a little bit about slip stitches. So every time we're doing these slip stitches, and it looks a little bit different than a regular single crochet stitch, because if you look, the bands sort of make, I think, an upside down V. They have a zigzaggy pattern, and so what you're doing is ignoring this first part that may look like a stitch, but it's actually not the true stitch. It's a false stitch made from doing the slip stitches. So it's actually this second half to the left of this peak that you're going to go under. So this is going to be true for the entire time here since we're doing all slip stitches. So ignore this first white. You're going under the 2 loops on the left half. We're doing our first white, and again it's pulling through everything, back on, one through the other, and then as you move over to your next stitch, again ignore this first half, go over to the left, go under those 2 loops, And at first it's going to line up here with gold going under gold and white going under white, but when we do the increases it's going to get messed up a little bit. So again here you're going to the left side, and this is when we're doing an increase in. So I'm pulling through everything, and then I'm going back under that same stitch for my increase. So here's where the colors are not going to line up this time. So now you're going to the left here, ignore this first one, you're going under the left of gold, but this time it's actually going to be that second color. So there's one, over to the next. Now this time I have the gold going under the white. And then in this third one we're going to do the increase. So that's going to make it line up again. So white, and then back through again. And now in this next set here, they're going to line up again. So I have white, then gold, and then my increase. So honestly, I think that this is probably one of the harder rows, just because of this increase. It messes up the pattern a little bit. But after this, it's much more straightforward when you're just doing one in each, and they will always line up. So here's my last set of this pattern, and again, they're not going to line up. So I have white under gold. So there's one, and then where your clip is, you have your last increase. And once you do this, that's going to line everything up for the next row, and then for all the rows after that, at least until we get to the decreases. So just move your clip. In row 5, you're going to need 16 bands, and as always, we're doing this every other pattern. So this is actually going to be the first row out of 10 that are going to be the same. So I'm just going to do this row with you, and then I'll have you do the rest on your own. So basically, it's the same concept. We're still doing slip stitches. You have to be careful that you're going into the left side of this upside down V. And from now on, at least till we do our decreases, the colors will always line up. So I have white under white, and then I'm going to have gold under gold. So just go around doing one in each. So if you've made my Loomigurumi candy cane, then you should be familiar with this, because basically it does the same thing, a slip stitch every time, and it always lines up. So I think that this one is just slightly more complex, only because you have the increases and the decreases, and that's sort of a little bit harder to wrap your head around, I think, with the slip stitches every time. But I don't think it's too difficult, really. So we're almost getting down to the end here. I have 2 left. and move that clip so you can see the pattern starting to form. In rows 6 through 14, we're going to keep repeating that same pattern as we did in row 5. So you're going to need 16 bands for each row, so that's 8 of each color. So you're doing that alternating color. You're doing 1 single crochet with a slip stitch in every stitch, and your colors should always line up, meaning that the band that you're placing through the stitch should always match. So you can pause your video here and complete those rows now, and then I will see you back here in a bit. In row 15, you still need 16 bands, so that's 8 of each color, but we are going to start to do some decreasing. So it's going to be 1, 1, and then a decrease, and then that's going to repeat. So here's what you should have right now. We're starting in the first one here with a single, and the colors are still lining up. So there's 1, actually my clip sort of got hung up there, and then 1 in the next. And then the way we're going to be doing the decreases is you're going to go to the next stitch, the color's still lining up, you're pulling through, but this time you're just getting the other end back on and pulling one through the other with just the white, or just whatever your first color is. And then you're leaving that on your hook, so you have 2 loops, 1 of each color. Go under your next stitch, you're going to pull through, back on, and then this time the end one is going to pull through the other 3. And then we're over to 1 single, back to the regular slip stitch, another single, and then here comes our decrease. So just the white goes through the white, leave this one on, go in the next stitch, pull through, back on, so you have 4 loops, 1 goes through the other 3. So single, single, and then here's my decrease through just the first, next one through all. And here's my last set, so I have single, single, should be 2 bands left, just through 1, and then through all. So then what I'm going to suggest is just take a second and sort of try and smooth that decrease area out just a little bit. And we are going to have to add our stuffing soon because this is narrowing. I think I will add some right now. So I like to do smaller sections at a time here, even though it's just one big area. And you can push a little bit up into the top here. It's really not much to fill. So you want it to be nice and full, but not so full that the stuffing is showing through the stitches. So I think that looks good for now. We can always add more. In row 16, you're going to need 12 bands, so that's 6 of each color. And the pattern that we're following is a decrease in every other stitch. So I have to point out the stitches because they're going to look a little bit different from where we did our decreases. So the first one here is regular, what you've been used to from a slip stitch, but then the next two are going to look different. They're both the same color and they look more like a stretched out stitch from doing that decrease. So they are each going to count as one stitch. And then the next one is that upside down V, you're just going into the left, and then you're going to have those two sort of stretched out stitches. So that's the way we're going to count them, and there should be 12, including the one on your hook. So I'm going under the first one to the left there of the center, and this one is our regular. And then under the next one here is sort of stretched out, we're going under that, and this is where we're doing a decrease. So one goes in that, first band pulls through the second, same color, and then you're going to that next one over, and this time the colors are not going to match up because we're changing to white. Pull through, back on, you have your 4 loops, one through the others. So now when we're doing our single here, this is our regular look here, but this time the colors are going to be opposite. So just pull through everything back on, one through the other. And now we have our two sort of stretched out. So we're doing our decrease in those. So here's one, and then just through the first, moving over to the next. This one's coming through, back on, and through all. Again here we have a regular single. Now this time they are lining up again. And then the decrease. And then over to the next stitch. Through all. We have a regular stitch. This time the colors are not lining up. And then finally a decrease through the first, and through all. Move your clip, and then again just take a second and try and smooth this out. Final thing we have to do is to just close this off, and I have just a few bands for that. I'm not going to continue to do rounds because I don't want it to keep building out. So I think the easiest thing to do to try and close this off is to just take out my hook. I'm going to leave this loop in my fingers, and from the outside I'm going to push under this next stitch, and then I will grab this and pull that through. And then I will go to the next stitch over. I'm going to skip this one and go to the one across here. And I'm going to do a slip stitch, so pull through everything. And then again with this loop, I'm going to grab this in my fingers and I'll go to this next one over from the outside and pull this through. And then again, I'm going to skip this one, I'll go to the next one, do a slip stitch, and then again, take this off, go to this next one over here, pull through, and then one more time here, I'm going to skip this little piece and I'll go to this white one. Oops, I didn't make it under both loops there. And I'm changing to white, slip stitch, and then I'll go straight across here, pull this under, and then right in the very middle here, going to come straight across It's pretty tight. Go under just a couple loops. I don't want to go under too many, maybe like just one or two. See some fuzz trying to come out. Take my last band, pull through everything, and here I'm going to make a nice and tight slip knot. So then the very last thing I have to do is just to hide this loop. So anywhere that you might see a little bit of an opening, you can stick this through and under those spots so it would kind of hide that. Just going to pull it under from over here. Just be careful you don't get your stuffing to come out like I just did. And then your ornament is complete. So you can do some shaping with it if you want to, trying to get it to have the nicest rounded shape possible. But I think the shape turns out pretty nice. And then here's the other one that I showed you at the beginning. So I really love the way that they turn out, and really you can do any color combination that you like. I think they would look great hanging on a Christmas tree, or you could hang them from some garland, or just set them on your desk, or set them around your house as a decoration. I hope that everyone loves their new Loomigurumi Christmas ornaments as much as I do. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures of things that you've made on my Facebook page. I always love to see everyone's creations. And please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you'll be notified when I have new tutorials uploaded. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe there, and you can post pictures and comments as well. Thanks for watching!